We are back. We are back. Today we're gonna dive into content. Everybody struggles with it, no matter how small or big you are. It's probably the biggest, most stressful part of this career. As you're smaller and you don't have the budgets or you're just lost on where to go, that has its own challenges. And then as you get bigger, whether you get bored of the content side, whether you get tired of it, even with all the budgets in the world, it just becomes a part of the industry that's most exhausting. I started my career as a promoter, but in social media. I was doing social media for my own projects, for some of the venues that I work for, and I can honestly tell you now, 18 years later, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it, but it's unnecessary. I mean, it's not unnecessary. It is necessary, and we have to do it. So let's talk about it. And I think one on it does it there is a mindset factor. I think a lot of people get stuck on this idea of like the big number, the most amount of likes, the most amount of comments, the most amount of views, like all that stuff. And though on like the super surface level, like I talked about in the social media numbers video, that might look and sound great, at the end of the day, like you need like real fans, not just followers, not just not just random likes and random comments for the wrong reasons. You want people who are liking your content, that are engaging with it, and all that stuff. You want them to be actual fans of you or to become fans of you. That way, they hopefully convert to buying music or streaming it or buying your merch or going to your shows or any of these things that I've talked about over and over again in these videos so far. So, it's sometimes better, and I tell everybody this, it's like, it's so much better to have 10 comments from people that are truly fans and will actually support you beyond the social media posts than to have 100 comments, but none of those people will support you. So I'm gonna talk about some things that I've seen that work. I'm gonna talk about some strategies that if you're lost, short-term strategies and things like that. And just like I just want to add, like just like your music, like the stuff you're making today will probably dramatically change in a year, 2 years, 3 years from now. So don't get stuck on this idea that the stuff you're doing today needs to be at a certain quality level or this or that because you're so focused on making sure your brand looks as pretty as could be. It always goes back to my saying like something's better than nothing. So having like bad content or not the prettiest color corrected content is still better than having nothing or doing nothing at all and letting your social media ghost. So we're gonna talk about let me see. We're gonna talk about one. It's important that you're doing things for brand building, building connections with your fans, and then also positioning yourself to be more appealing to those who haven't really looked into you yet, you know? And you want to think about there's two things you want to think about with your content. One is you want to think about your current following and making stuff that's going to cross their plates that they're going to be interested in, that way they keep up to speed with what's happening in your career. And then two, you want to create content that's going to attract new fans. You know, it's gonna find their way to them through some type of algorithm or people sharing it, whether it's on their stories or DMs, things like that. And all of this should be a reflection of who you are as an artist and what you aspire to be, right? Um, on a short term, if you're just completely lost, you're like, I have no idea what to post, you know, like, and all you've been posting is flyers and album covers. I could tell you, like, that's not gonna work. It's almost gonna harm you sometimes. Like, you do need to post these things, but you need to make sure it's not only that stuff. Because if it's flyer, or album release, album release, album release, if it's just a custom design artwork after artwork after artwork, you know, you're going to just see your engagement go down. Fans want to feel more involved in your career. They want to see the things that are happening behind the scenes, at the shows, on tour, the travel, a little bit of your personal life, and stuff like that. So, in the short term, if you're like a little lost, what I kind of tell a lot of up and coming artists, bedroom artists, things like that, is write down 5 or 6 touring acts that are musically in line with you, that you aspire maybe to be similar to or alike, and go look at their Instagrams or their TikToks or whatever platform is relevant at the moment, or all of them, and kind of analyze the things that they post. Like not to just completely copy them, but to see what's working and not working. Like, hey, they just announced their new record. How did they announce it? How many different pieces of content were for that release? And how did they do it? Like some artists do this thing where they sit down on their laptop and are just playing it at different locations. Not my favorite content, but it seems to work. Other people make like little micro music videos. Other people do all kinds. There's just so many different ways to present the content. But look at the artists that are in your music lane that have the type of fan base and that you want. Like them or their teams have usually figured out the things that work with those audiences, and it's not a bad idea that on a short term you kind of like copy similar styles without it being like a complete knockoff, right? It's the same thing in your music journey, right? You learn the software, maybe Ableton or Logic or one of these others, and in the beginning you're kind of copying the artists that you like, the producers that you like. You're like, oh, this is how they did that hi-hat or their drum or this or that. And at the beginning you're kind of copying them just to see how they got from A to Z, and then eventually, hopefully, you become more than a copy. You start, now that you've known how that the processes work, you start to develop your own sound, right? It's no different with this. Eventually, maybe a lot of the stuff is gonna be, hey, I've seen that this works for this artist or this works for this artist. I'm gonna take a little bit from here and a little bit from there. And eventually you'll find your own groove and your own unique way to present yourself. And when you do that, whether it's both from the production side to the content side, that's usually when things really start working. It's when you define your own path, you know? But on a short term, it's very easy to look at others, see what's working, do similar things, and then try to evolve it, right? So studying others is a great way to do it. And this is just on a content side. I highly recommend that a lot of you go on a deep dive, and I'm not going to go into like analytical stuff with social media advertising and things like that, because there's millions of videos on it, and I don't need to remake something that's already there. But I would learn about that. I would learn about audiences and lookalike audiences and how to collect data and how to use and manipulate that data to your benefit, right? And avoid the boost button. Those are money suckers. They're gonna get you the worst type of engagement, and it's designed as a lazy scenario for Meta or these other platforms to essentially take your money. They have a very, very advanced ad platform. Um, in the business manager and the ad manager, there's different layers to that. They have a very, very advanced tool where you can maximize who's seeing your ads and do it in a way to get the cheapest and best cost per click, right? And that's what you want. You want to maximize, especially in the early part of your career where you don't have money. Maybe you only have $20 to spend. You want to maximize that $20. So clicking a boost button is just a quick way to kind of burn your money. It's like going to a slot machine at a casino. Maybe once in a while it'll work, but most of the time it's just designed to take people's money. So I really recommend. You're almost better off not boosting the post than using that button. So just my piece of advice: if you do want to get into a path where you're ready to start spending money on advertising, hey, if you know somebody knows how to do it, try to lean on them. But if not, there's a lots of content on YouTube that really teaches you this. If you're in the meta world, just search on YouTube. Ad manager, business manager, audiences, lookalikes. These like four keywords will get you to the content on YouTube you need to learn more, and just keep deep diving it. The trends on that stuff are always changing. So on a short term, some good stuff that you want to do. Look at what's working for others. Try, just like your own sound, try to find your own path with content as well. But yes, you can look at what's working and do the same stuff to present your music, to present your shows, to promote, to content in between. And I'm gonna actually in a minute I'm gonna break down a little bit more on the type of content we could do. But that is the quickest way to just, hey, I don't enjoy this stuff. I just want to find a short term quick solution. Look at what's working for other people. before I get into some other ideas of what can work, I want to try to get into something that I actually think will work against you, right? Um, one of those is well, I'm gonna go into like one of those is following like non-music viral trends, right? Like, oh, this video, maybe it's funny, maybe it's silly, maybe it's like influencer style, but it gets a lot of views and likes and comments. And though that stuff is gonna work, it's gonna get you the wrong fans. And remember earlier, I said it's better to have 10 comments from people who really like what you're doing and may buy your music and may go to your shows than having 100 comments from something else. That's what that content will get. It's like a smoke and mirror effect. Like, it's gonna feel like it's working. You're gonna get a ton of followers. You're gonna get tons of likes and comments and views, but those are fans. Those are people that are followers that are there for the wrong reasons, and a smaller, better quality fan base is gonna help your long-term career. So I would avoid like very trendy viral stuff that's non-music related. If you want to lean into trendy viral stuff that that is related to music to present your content, that's on you. Some people like it, some people think it's cheesy. It just depends on what your goal is. If you're definitely going a more sophisticated sound, more under like very, very underground, like in a like in a more, I guess, an elitist underground sound, that stuff's probably gonna harm you with that fan base because they don't like it. If you wanna lean into a little bit more of the middle ground or mainstream route, you can get away with stuff like that, right? No one that fan base doesn't really that concerned with, what's, I guess, deemed coolest, right? So, yeah, I would avoid the non-music viral trend stuff. Next is the one that like diehard producers that are like real nerds, and I don't mean nerds in like a demeaning way. I just mean like very passionate people about the production side, like Ableton and Logic and these programs. They like to make this like very detailed, like kind of like tutorial style content on how they made maybe this track or that track. And it works very well. It's going to get you lots of likes and comments, especially if you're making really good music. But it's only going to get you a following of DJs and producers who are trying to learn how to make that kind of stuff, right? And those people usually rarely buy your music. Maybe they might buy some records because they want to play in their sets, but they rarely become fans that are going to come see you at shows, you know? Um, and what the problem with that is, even though it might work within that audience, what it turns off are like fans, like people who don't care about filters and oscillators and sample packs and this and that. Like, it's too technical of talk for them to be into. And when that content hits the algorithm, those people aren't going to become fans or follow you because they're going to think you're just teaching producers how to produce, right? Um, so I would say, like, it's not a completely bad idea to do this. Like, I would just make sure it's, like, less than 10% of your content. If it becomes a majority part of your content, what you're gonna build over time is an audience of people who crave producer content, and you're not gonna really gain an audience that promoters and labels are gonna be very attracted to, right? So again, I would just keep that, like, if you're into that, I have some artists that like to do it that I work with, and I always tell them the same thing, like, just don't post too much of that. Like, I would actually keep it like 10%. So if you're making 10 posts this week, at most like one of those posts should be this type of content. Um yeah, that one I would actually say is almost more important because everyone that I've seen that becomes like the tutorial producer, that's really all they ever become, and that's fine if you're not looking to tour, right? If you're like, "Hey, I just wanna make music, I don't really care about touring, and I would like to make money from both selling my music and then maybe offering one-on-one lessons, selling educational content," then yeah, that's great, lean into that, right? Um, but no, once your entire audience becomes that, it's gonna be very hard to flip into a touring career later. You're almost gonna have to start over and fresh with, like, a clean slate. Um, Next, I'm going to get into some ideas and things to focus on. For whatever reason, and I've noticed this from a very personal level, but also with my artists, the algorithms, there must be a switch where when they, because they have your location obviously, where it knows that when you're not in the normal location, your home where you live, it must push your content out to more. Because on a personal level, when I'm traveling, whether it's work related or just a vacation, my views, likes, comments, all that stuff can like 4 or 5x sometimes, whether it's stories or posts. So obviously, if you have the ability, if you're touring or you have the means to travel, lean into that, lean into posting while you're traveling, lean into all that stuff because one, the algorithm loves it, but your fans like it. They want to see what's happening whether you're on tour. They the bigger you are, they want to see they want a little bit more of a peek into your personal life. It's the same reason why people get obsessed with celebrities like love lives and things like this. Like fans become nosy and they want to know more about what's happening with you than just the career stuff. So when you can lean into like behind the scenes stuff, whether it's on your music or personal life, it's great. They love it. On a personal life thing, I would kind of just say the same thing. Maybe like keep that at like 10-20% of the content because if it becomes just that, you're going to kind of garner some fans in there that might not really care about your music or your shows, right? Anything behind the scenes in the studio, people like that as long as it doesn't get too nerdy, right? So sometimes you'll see like a video of an artist presenting their new track. They're really not teaching you anything. They kind of have like the Ableton screen loaded up. They press play. They maybe point like, hey, this is the drum and this is that. And maybe they mute a few things so you can hear just a certain thing, but they're not getting into like the very highly technical lingo or teaching you anything. It's just another piece of content where it makes the fans think they're getting like a peek behind the scenes, but it's just really you're presenting your new music in another way, right? And when you're presenting music, you want to have more than one style of content. You want to have like maybe a performance of you or someone else playing it, a behind the scenes that's not too nerdy. If you want something also nerdy for the producers who follow you, you can have that also, but I would make sure you definitely have the other content that's more fan driven. And then I don't know, maybe like a little micro music video or some other content to present your music again, look at what's happening. But if you can have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different types of content to present your new release, it's more likely to be successful because the algorithm will push those out to 5 or 10 different types of audiences that are into that stuff. So you're kind of hitting like every possible angle to reach new fans, right? So I always recommend that. The more content you can place around a new release, an old release, it's only going to help you reach more people. If you're always doing the exact same type of content over and over, if you have like one content idea for music and it works, and you just keep doing that every release, what's probably going to happen is it's just going to end up in the same types of people's algorithm. And that's great. You're feeding people who already like you music that again, but you're maybe not going to hit new audiences. So, like I said, just try to think outside the box, have a bunch of different ideas so you can attract new fans, right? So that's one. I mean, the best type of content that I see work for DJs is playing gigs, crowds going crazy, like that, all kinds of stuff. That one's easier said than done when you're already touring and things like that. But when you're kind of starting your career and all you have are maybe like opening slots to pretty empty dance floors, that one gets more complex and it's harder. But don't be afraid to show people where you start to. Show playing an empty room in the early part of your career is better than not playing anything at all. And fans really love being a part of that journey to be able to one day say like, oh, I was a fan when this person was playing to nobody. Now they're playing to thousands of people. Those are actually probably some of your best fans because they're there through that whole journey. They're a big piece of why you're successful, right? And then in between all that, I mean, storytelling, having a voice, like people love that, right? Um, tell the story of how a track came together or about a tour or funny, bad, good, not. I mean, as long as you're not talking crap and demeaning or putting people on blast, I think telling stories of of what's happening in your career, the good, bad, and ugly. People love that. They want to be a part of it, right? You see this happen. I mean, James Hype is a great example that he's always making outside of him doing the videos of all his like bells and whistles of his DJ set. He's always doing lots of storytelling videos. They're not highly produced videos. Most of the time, they're him cell phone on a selfie cam, just telling a story of maybe how he made it or how he got to a certain point in his career. It's very easy content that doesn't require much. Don't script it. Don't be overly passionate, be natural, have a voice. You'll get better at it, even if it sucks in the early days, even if maybe you struggle or jumble words. The more you do anything, just like making music, the better you get. Just like DJing, you weren't great out the box. All this stuff, you're not going to be great at the beginning, but the more you do all of it, the better you're going to get. And then, yeah, I mean, just anything like that. And then try to find new ideas. Like outside of all the obvious stuff that works, if you can come up with a new way to present yourself in any capacity and to garner attention related to you, your music, your career, um, the first to a new idea is always one of the best, you know? And then, that's it, man. Show your personality, show your value, show your creative process, be highly authentic. Don't overly chase trends. It's cool to lean into some trends to appeal to bigger audiences, but don't make your entire brand a copy of other things that are happening. Be an original, not always a remix, right? And then that's it. And by doing all this stuff, it'll only elevate your profile, it'll elevate your career, it'll elevate your music, and the effects of that will compound time and time again. And as I've said many times before, doing a lot of this stuff, doing a little bit of this stuff over a long enough period of time will garner you the success you want. So I'm gonna end it with that. This isn't a highly technical video. This is probably my least technical. It's just to give you like a baseline of some ideas and how to think outside the box, a little bit of do's and don'ts. I really hope, as always, this stuff helps you. I know it's hard. There's very few artists out there that genuinely like it. I could tell you behind the scenes, even your biggest favorite artist, they hate it. It's like a chore to them, but it's unfortunately like it's a necessary thing to reach a fan base, and it's much better than 20 years ago at had even to stand on the side of a street in a busy town and pass out a mixtape. And most of those people don't even care about what you're doing. At least now there's ways to harness and focus your content to get to people that would generally care about what you're doing. So with that being said, I hope you like it. I hope it helps you. Positive or negative feedback, leave it in the comments. Like, subscribe, share this video. It really helps. And thank you all for tuning in.